Chapter 5 of the Revitalized Agreement on the Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan outlines 3 cornerstone transitional justice mechanisms: the Commission on Truth, Reconciliation and Healing, Compensation and Reparations Authority, and the Hybrid Court for South Sudan. These mechanisms are designed to confront the scars of the past while fostering a future anchored in justice and national unity. Their establishment is very important to ensure that peace becomes a lasting reality for the people of South Sudan.
This bill is very sensitive, simply because it is about compensation and reparation and healing also. I mean, 2 of the 3 transitional justice bills. After coming to, from the grassroots, we also have to do some study tours to the countries who were having the same or the similar issues, like ours of 2013 and 2016. So we have like Rwanda. There is experience of Rwanda in terms of transitional justice. And we also have the experience of South Africa in terms of transitional justice. So we'd like to get these experiences. And then after that, we come and we prepare the bill and table it to the House, because during the deliberations in the House, questions may come up in regard to the bill. And if we don't have a proper background on the bill and proper background and other regional experiences that we have, to enrich ourselves with the knowledge and then now present the bill, it will be very difficult for us to answer queries that will come up from the House.
Transitional justice extends beyond legal frameworks and mechanisms. It is a profound effort to rebuild trust, address historical wounds, and forge a future found in peace and justice.
My name is Farouk Ismail Okach. I work with the South Sudan Law Society. Today we're engaging the members of parliament on the possibility of passage of the CTRH and CRA bill, that is Commission for Truth, Healing and Reconciliation bill, and then the Reparation Authority bill that has been hanging in parliament for quite some months. And we are trying to ask the Committee on Peace and Reconciliation what is hindering the process and why the bills have taken longer in the parliament. The MPs and the chair of the Committee of Peace and Reconciliation in parliament gave positive response in terms of the engagement, and the factors that really delay of the documents is the recess that they had gone through for almost 3.5 months without any activity in the parliament. However, our engagement with them gave us clear roadmap on what steps needs to be taken for the bills to be adopted and become into law, of which is still in the first reading. It has to go for the second reading, and then the comments will come in, including bringing it back to the public to add more voices on the content of the document.
But what we would like to send to the people on the ground there is that this bill itself, it is a bill that needs public consultation. It's not the bill that is owned by the parliament or owned by the government, but it is the bill that is owned by the people. And the people should have their input into the bill.
In this discussion, we have agreed with concrete recommendations on how we're going to have joint engagement with the MPs and other stakeholders, including the partners, to support the passage of the bill. The MPs alluded to the support that is given to them by partners and why it's very important to fast track the passage of the 2 bills into law, of which we are capable of giving them the support needed, and also come out loudly to mention some of the basics within the bill so that we go out there for civic education to make the people know the real content into these 2 documents.
on behalf of my government and on behalf of the high-level studying committee for the implementation of the revitalized agreement on the regional conflict in the Republic of South Sudan, I have the honor and the privilege to warmly welcome you all to Juba to attend this 3-day South Sudan Transitional Justice Mechanism Conference. This conference is held on the theme Building a South Sudan Model for Transitional Justice, which starts from today, 15th to 17th of May, 2023.
Assalamu alaikum. I have very short remarks. As you heard, I share the governance cluster, and this chapter is under the cluster. But I just want to say this is a very important occasion because peace without justice always do not last. But peace with justice lasts. And this chapter is now trying to come up. We were supposed to have tackled this chapter just 3 months after the transitional government was established. But because of many difficulties, it took a long time, and we are happy that the technical committee has carried out consultation. And this conference is going to be the final consultation for those who are experts so that we can have legislations to effect the implementation of this chapter. As I said, my remarks would be short. My main function today is to, and with you together, to welcome the President to make the key address on this occasion. Your Excellency, you are welcome to the podium. Thank you very much.
I sincerely want to take this opportunity to warmly welcome you to Juba to attend our conference on transitional justice mechanisms under the theme Building a South Sudanese Model for Transitional Justice System. For those of you who might not know the history of our struggle, it took us nearly 64 years, from 1947 to July 2011, to earn our freedom and independence. So it was a long and very expensive struggle. It has taken many lives, deprived generations from education, and kept our people underdeveloped. I'm one of those who left school very early and joined the Anyanya 1 liberation struggle at the age of 16. I consider this a very important chapter because it gives people the opportunity to see the truth, reconcile and heal the wounds of being a victim on the basis of the truth. Those who are found guilty will have the opportunity to apologize and ask for forgiveness. The victims will also find the heart to forgive and may qualify for compensation and reparation. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as you have heard from the Master of Ceremony and from the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the 3 transitional justice mechanisms provided under Chapter 5 are the Commission for Truth, Reconciliation and Healing, the Compensation and Reparations Authority, and the Hybrid Court for South Sudan. As I have said, several times. I will never take South Sudan and its people to war again.
The international community, including the United Nations and the African Union, has been supporting the government of South Sudan in implementing those mechanisms. Financial backing from Peacebuilding Fund, development partners, and diplomatic missions like the Royal Kingdom of Netherlands has played a critical role in advancing transitional justice efforts in South Sudan. This collective support underscores the global commitment to assisting South Sudan in its transformative processes.
My name is Edmund Akani. I'm Executive Director of SEPO. And yes, thank you for coming to the office to follow up on the call and the demand for really a functional transitional justice in South Sudan. As you are aware that the country is undergoing a transitional process, and transitional process without effective transitional justice, it can't mean anything. It means we need to have functional and practical transitional justice to accomplish a successful transitional period. And as you are aware that the two bills for the Commission for Truth, Healing and Reconciliation and then the bill for Compensation and Reparations Authority, it is being passed into a law and signed into a law by the President. What next we're waiting is the establishment of the institutions that will be in line with the two bills or with the two laws, the Commission for Truth, Healing and Reconciliation and then the Compensation and Reparations Authority. So it was a successful advocacy that we did for quite a number of period of years. Let me say around 3 years as a civil society. We have been effectively demanding the enactment of these two legislations into a law. Now they've been enacted and signed by the President, and now we're waiting the institution to be established.
The news of the passing of the two bills, led it the CTRH, the one for the Commission for Truth, Reconciliation and Healing, and that of the Compensation and Reparations Authority. It was very exciting for some of us who were largely involved from the start up to where we are today. And for us, it was an achievement. It was a very incredible milestone, and we appreciate those who participated in making sure that this bill come to being. In fact, transitional justice, apart from my passion for the rule of law and protection of human rights, I was also nominated by the Minister of Justice, Honorable Justice Ruben Madelarol, through different partners. The agreement has stipulated that for this Chapter 5 to come into being, there should be established some technical committees that would help in bringing the legislation into place. So I was identified as one of the stakeholders to participate.
Signing the two bills into a law is a different thing, and getting the institutions to implement these two bills and into a law is a different thing. Of course, we're impressed that now officially the bills are laws signed by the President. The next thing is now the establishment of the institutions, and of course there will be a lot of advocacy work around the establishment of the institution, and especially these institutions come in a very right moment where the society is almost coming to an end of a transitional process through the conduct of election proposed for December 2026. And we are so much divided in the spirit of implementing the access. So there's a lot of communal violence, a lot of bitter political experiences among the politicians, and there's a fear for justice and accountability growing every year. So it's going to be another challenge to see that these two institutions come to function, or they're established by the leadership of the country, because the leadership of the country is also questioning themselves. If these two institutions come to function, what does it mean to the other third instrument, which is the hybrid court? And of course, the hybrid court is an instrument for justice. And these three institutions, per Chapter 5 of the access on transitional justice, are interlinked. So you can't avoid the hybrid court if once the Commission for Truth and Reconciliation, Compensation and Reparations Authority come to function, because some of the cases will be referred by the Commission for Truth and Reconciliation to hybrid court, and some of the cases from the Compensation and Reparations Authority will be referred to either the Commission for Truth and Reconciliation or the hybrid court. So these three institutions are interlinked. But at least if we can score the function of the two, or the establishment of the two institutions, we might have scored at least a certain reasonable percentage in demanding transitional justice in South Sudan, in the context where we have a bitter experience and where the social fabric is badly broken.
1996, I'm a newly appointed judge by Nelson Mandela in our constitutional court. And my phone rings and I'm told from reception, there's a man called Henry, says he has an appointment with you. And I say to reception, send him through. And my heart is beating as I go down the corridor to the security gate. My heart is beating because Henry said he was the person who had organized the bomb in my car that blew me up in Mozambique, cost me my arm and sight in one eye. He's going to South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Am I willing to see him? And I said, yes. And now I open the door and there is Henry. I've never seen him before. Who's this man? He's looking at me, I'm looking at him. So this is the man who tried to kill me. And I see in his eyes, this is the man I tried to kill. We'd never fought each other, but he was on that side and I was on this side. And we go to my chambers and he's striding like a soldier and I try and slow him down, walking like a judge. And we sit down and we talk. He tells me about his life. He's so proud of how he rose up in the army to become one of the heads of the hit squads to kill us. But he's proud of the fact he got through the army so well. And eventually I say, Henry, I have to get on with my work. Normally when I say goodbye to somebody, I shake that person's hand. I can't shake your hand. Go to the Truth Commission. Maybe we'll meet one day, who knows. And when he walked back this time, he's not striding like a soldier, he's walking like a defeated person. We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country, and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity.
Significant progress has been made in the Commission on Truth, Reconciliation and Healing, Compensation and Reparations Authority bills passed by the Parliament and signed into law by the President, His Excellency General Salva Kiir Mayardit. However, the last component of Chapter 5, that's the establishment of the hybrid court of South Sudan, remains unresolved.
So today, while calling for implementation of the transitional justice mechanisms of the peace agreement, as well as of other peace commitments, we call for immediate action to end SGBV, as well as other significant violations of human rights.
In the long-standing relationship between the Netherlands and South Sudan, security and the rule of law has been a cornerstone of our cooperation. And therefore the Netherlands is proud to be associated with the transitional justice process. We will continue to partner with the people of South Sudan for the strengthening and development of their access to justice, security, and human rights.
The representative of UNMISS, please, welcome.
That the establishment of the various mechanisms listed under Chapter 5 is an important prerequisite to a comprehensive realizations of the rights to truth, justice, reparation, and guarantee of non-occurrence. And I think these are principles that are established worldwide.
But in terms of storytelling, I forgot to give you the end of the story. So before you go to the comfort of the hotel, and the danger of comfortable seats is everybody can fall asleep. At least everybody's been very alert here. I just wanted to say, you remember Henry was the one who came to my chambers. He said he's going to the Truth Commission. I said, I can't shake your hand. Go to the Truth Commission. I forgot about him. And about 6 months later, it's the end of the year, I'm going with a friend to a party. We work very hard as judges, very hard. I want to relax. The band is playing loud music. And I hear a voice saying, Albie. I look around. Albie. It's Henry. He's calling me by my first name like he's my friend. And he said, we go into a corner where I can hear him better, away from the music. He said, and I went to the Truth Commission. And I told them everything I knew. I spoke to Bobby and Sue and Farouk, people who'd been in exile with me in Mozambique, also could have been victims of the bomb. I told them everything, and you said one day, and I said, Henry, I've only got your face to tell me that what you're saying is the truth. And I put out my hand, and I shook his hand. I almost fainted. He went away beaming, beaming, beaming. But I heard afterwards he suddenly left the party and he went home to cry for 2 weeks. I don't know if that's true. I want to believe it's true. I'm not even trying to find out. I'd rather believe it's true that he cried. For me, that's more important than that he goes to jail.
Our case was different. We had a dictatorship, a brutal dictatorship, which existed for 22 years, who wanted to obliterate anyone who stood up against him or whom he thought would stand up against him. So we had the task of establishing the truth. We had to promote peace and reconciliation and healing. And the third one was reparations. I was responsible for reparations. I was supposed to speak tomorrow, but I will speak for my chairman today. So in short, the truth must be told. It must be told from the perspective of the victim. It must be told from the perspective of the perpetrators and the people who suffered what they suffered.
Consultations with the South Sudanese citizens who have sought refuge in neighboring countries.
My name is Judith Danga Thomas. I work with the Center for Inclusive Governance, Peace and Justice, CIGPJ. During the consultation on the TJ, like from the grassroots level, normally people say the consultation has not reached them. Most of the consultation has been done in the urban, mostly in Juba. You know, they don't go deeply to the grassroots. And then the questions comes in is that, why don't we have voices of the grassroots women? The question comes, the answer comes that there's insecurity that makes, the organizations not to reach deep into the grassroots. That's why, those are just some of the few challenges.
Ajal nader bele tan nader kele tum kwes la ano kan bele kwes aja kulu bikon kwes
ukienda dasan bamul nafsa bichao lazim anna bigeni marujal tanna sawa manna nuswan barao liana ita mara barao ita mabagder lakini anna marujal tanna kulu sawa yala ita kan wonusu dor take kamara fi wonusa take kalama lita wonusu de muhim de ya haja lita giruwa amulu yala kalam de bagder jibu sunu bagder jibu salam liana anna nuswan anna indu kamani indu kuwa anna nuswan kaman kedo dila no fursa.
Normally they say, who are the beneficiaries of this Compensation and Reparations Authority? The answer comes as a civil society is that these are the victims or these are survivors. And then even the perpetrators, are they part of this Compensation and Reparations Authority? How is it going to be done? Is it going to be done individually, or is it going to be done in the community level, in the county level, in the national level? Those are the debates that are going around.
طلعوا لما نجوا من هناك شغلات بتاعتنا وقف حتى في امهات ذاته اللي فعلا زمن مشاكل ده هم مرضوا لكن هم جلقوا ذاته بيوتهم بشكل ده ذاته بيوت بتاعهم قلعوا بيوت بتاعهم انشالوا وهم دخلوا في محاكم ولا حد حصل لسه حقيقه كلام ما في.
Obviously, we are going to expect the first challenge is that whether the commissioners for these institutions will come from political parties or the commissioners have to be independent. By the requirement of the law, the commissioners have to be independent, because if any either of the parties in the conflict file their members as a commission to the commission, then they have compromised with the purpose of why we need to have this institution, because these institutions need people of high integrity, people whom their hands are clean from committing any atrocities or any human rights violations since 2013. Political parties may be hesitant to bring commissioners that are not members of their parties, because once they have commissioners that are members of their party, the chance of them manipulating the function of this institution are very high. And that's the challenge we are going to face as a civil society. And we'll be from time to time demanding that anybody to be recruited into these institutions or as a commissioners to these institutions must be people who are completely independent. They are not partisan. Anybody going to this institution have to undergo a human rights due diligence process. That means they have to be cross-examined whether they directly or indirectly are engaged in any human rights violations, or whether the party they represent or their relatives or their immediate partners have engaged in any human rights violations. So I think the leadership of the country will not allow the people who are to run these institutions to undergo a robust human rights due diligence in terms of vetting, verifying them, and of course the appointment have to be public in a transparent manner so that citizens can vet them. So that is the next challenge we are going to face. The next challenge is that even if we have such commissioners, the political will to finance these institutions is another challenge, because we have seen how much the agreement was being dragged in its implementation simply because financing the implementation of the agreement becomes selective. So we are a bit worried that this institution might face financial constraint because the politicians may be selectively in financing these institutions to deliver their mandate. So those are the challenges that we have. The other challenge is a question of open civic and political space. If people express themselves freely in the media.
Of course, I want you to maybe explain for us briefly the concept of truth and reconciliation.
When we talk about truth, things have happened. We have lost people. There are people who have been left behind. When they are maybe lost the limbs, some have become blind. You have seen on the street, others actually rendered homeless. Some who are still even crying up to now. When they move on the street, they say, had it not been because of the 2013-2016 crisis, I wouldn't actually be homeless today. But when we are talking about truth, we are saying, let the culprit say exactly that, for example, I have committed, I've murdered people. I own the act that I did, and I'm praying for forgiveness.
To first reconcile themselves, they have to first find a way of sitting together in order to discuss matters that have affected or any party that was involved.
My argument was very simple. He said, we will look into the truth first.
We must first reconcile and speak to each other.
Recognition and validation of the experience and dignity of the victims and survivors, and provide them with the opportunity to share their stories, express their grievances, seek redress and reparation.
Reflecting on the current challenges, the Peacebuilding Fund came to an end in January 2025. Hence, ensuring sustainability and local ownership of transitional justice efforts will be essential for long-term success and impact in South Sudan.
Daniel Kwanyalier. I'm a journalist by profession. I'm also a media trainer. I currently serve as Secretary General for the Union of Journalists of South Sudan. I believe and I strongly encourage that journalists, they have a very pivotal role to play. One is that because they promote public participation, particularly now that the CTRH and CRA, as you mentioned, are already being passed into law by the president. So it is a good opportunity now for journalists to be able to make sure that information is given to the public so that they can know that the Commission for Truth, Reconciliation and Healing and Compensation and Reparations Authority is going to be established. So it is really very instrumental that journalists started doing issues of programming, the radio station, the television, the newspapers writing, such that it can encourage the citizens to come out openly to be able to share truth, healing processes.
You're touching, and of course, they should not tell your story because of money. You tell your story because your heart. Let me go to Madam Soshi. Who qualifies to sit on such a body, and can it have international and local commissioners? What considerations are made when such people are being selected?
Who qualifies? For us, the government invited communities. Now for the executive secretary's team, those were technical people. But for the commissioners, people had to nominate. The communities had to nominate. Based on ethnicity, based on gender, you had to be apolitical, and you have to have competence in a known area. So now when the communities nominated their people, it went to the regional office, and then it went to the Ministry of Justice and government, and they had to post people's names to say, do they accept this person to sit on the commission? So in terms of, if you look at our profiles, some of the two commissioners, for example, from the rural areas, spoke no English. They had never been to formal school, but they were leaders in their communities, and their communities wanted them to serve, so they were there. But that did not mean that they did not know the issues. They were highly knowledgeable about the issues. The only gap was that they were not literate in English.
South Sudan's path towards transitional justice is a testament to resilience, hope, and determination to heal from decades of conflict.
Primarily, it's a government who is responsible to fund. And I think what we are going to do is that the next upcoming budget for 2025-2026, we make sure that TJ is really given a priority in the budget, and we are going to have campaign. And I think these are some of the areas that we're going to undertake as a civil society. Besides our advocacy for making sure that the laws are signed into, the bills are signed into law, which we have scored now, our next is really advocating for the establishment of these institutions as independent institutions. Our next is also ensuring that we campaign for adequate and timely funding of these institutions through the upcoming national budget, 25-2026 budget. I think that for me is very important that we need to pursue it. And of course, we have heard sometimes politicians does not give priority for such institutions, but it becomes part of our work that we have to advocate and we have to push and we have to lobby to ensure that resources given. But I'm quite sure if this institution were established, friends of South Sudan will come and help these institutions to deliver their mandate, because it's within an international interest to ensure that peace and stability prevail. For peace and stability to prevail in a sustainable manner, transitional justice is essential and is a cornerstone of any successful transitional process.
Then one of the case studies that the South Africa Albie Sachs was one who shared his story on Commission for Truth, Healing and Reconciliation. On the Memorization Center, it comes in a way that South Sudan need to have all those centers. If we are going to have these centers, we have 10 states plus 3 administrative areas. Are we going to have all these centers in the 10 states and 3 administrative areas? It's still a debate. Why can't we use Beta Labiat?
Why Beta Labiat?
Why Beta Labiat? Because they need to know what are those activities that have been taking place, you know, during before even 1955, yes, the Anyanya 1 up to the CPA until, you know, the RXs.
Why are those centers important anyway?
They're very important because as a country, you know, for our children to know what is happening, what is even our country all about, what happened during the Anyanya 1. You know, this will be incorporated into the curriculum of South Sudan so that our children will know what is this Beta Labiat all about.
I noted the issue of access to information is something that you talked about so much. And it's critical that also you see that sometimes the media operates in the urban centers a lot, predominantly. And when it goes down to the grassroots levels, I think very many voices are most likely not to be heard.
Yeah, it is really very important. Like just to give you a short story, 2 weeks ago we were in ABA and we learned that the voice of ABA, which is the only radio which was operating in the area ministerially in Agog, was actually made unoperational for 18 months. So what happened, the journalists in ABA, what they did is that they go out, gather the news, write it, and produce the news, and times for airing the news hour, they used to drive with their car to get into the market where there is a population, and they air out the news after they have mounted a microphone on the car. So this is the same way that I can think, yes, seeing that access to information is a serious challenge. Wherever you are as a journalist, it is a commitment. As you know that the profession is a noble profession that requires us to be able to commit ourselves and serve the public passionately with accurate information. So do whatever you can within your means.
I think one of the things we can do to get the common man engaged in this process is the civic education. And then use the sports for transitional justice, traditional dances, and bring musicians to sing songs about transitional justice, and go for radio talk shows, go to schools, disseminate in schools. So I think there are quite a number of methodologies that we can utilize to reach out to the common citizens.
To other stakeholders, the army, the police, the national security, is for them to know that journalists are not enemies. They are partners of reconstruction of this country. Without a journalist, you will not be able to know what is happening. But once you have had it in several, like Advanced Use Radio, Radio Miraya, iRadio, you'll be able now to package your report and give to the decision makers that is properly informed, other than is information that is full of misinformation and disinformation. Work of public consultation is going to come in, documentation is going to come in. Who is going to do this? It is the media. So this is the right time that the funding should continue to be increased.
Once the institutions were established, a civil society will collaborate with them. That's one of the more important things. But also, I think a civil society will advocate to have public hearings in the parliament on TJ through the Committee for Peace and Reconciliation, because that's the committee where the TJ docket falls into. So we'll organize, making sure that we work with the parliamentarians, take them out there, so they can raise motions around why we feel transitional justice is very important in the country. So those are some of the things that we'll do, and making sure that also we engage with other state agencies like Ministry of Peacebuilding, the Commission for, at a national level, at a state level, Commission for Conflict Resolution and Reconciliation, working with them, state ministries of peacebuilding, and creating citizen-centered TJE engagements, things like working groups of citizens on a particular aspect of TJ, either truth-telling, compensation, reconciliation. So I think those are some of the things that we will reach out, and they will work together with the government. And as you said, government is a key partner to transitional justice.